Okay, we continue with the process costing. Okay, previously, in our previous video, the process is without losses. Okay, now when we have losses in our processes. Okay, so what is process losses? So process losses may occur when the quantity or weight or volume of process output is less than quantity of weight of input. So output less than input. So there is losses. Okay, so possible losses. Okay, what is the possible when you have the losses? The causes because of waste or scrap. So what is waste? Waste is a certain types of processes, materials physically disappear due to evaporation or shrinkage. That means discarded substance having no value. Example, gases, dust, smoke. Okay, when you, example here, when you boil a water, when you want to produce a drinks, you have to the process of boiling the water. During boiling the water, let's say the input is 1 liter. After the water is boiled, okay, at the end of the process of boiling, the output is not 1 liter anymore. So it will be less than that. So that quantity of output is less than input. So during the processing of boiling the water, there is evaporation. So that one is the waste. Why we call it waste? Because there is no value. So the losses has no value. Okay, the other types of losses is scrap. Okay, what is scrap? Scrap is a kind of metal residue from a certain type of manufacturing processes. So usually insignificant in quantity and sales value is relatively low. Example, when you produce the product after the process, okay, after at the end of the process, okay, the output is still less than input, but the losses here you can see there is a physical substance of the losses. That physical substance of the losses cannot be further processed, but you can sell it to the outsiders, normally relatively low value. Example, you produce beras. Okay, after processing the padi, you will get the beras. But sometimes there is a beras that too much, dia hancur, dia terlampau kecil, you cannot sell as a beras. That beras, okay, you can sell to the flour factory. They will use that beras yang hancur to get a flour. So the beras yang hancur tu, the saleable value is relatively very low. Okay, example, when you produce shirt. Okay, when you produce a shirt, you cut the fabric. Okay, when you cut the fabric, there is a extra pieces of fabric that is small quantity that cannot be used anymore to produce other shirts. So yang itu you tak boleh guna for the next process. You cannot use that fabric to the other process. So you can sell to the other outsiders, maybe other factories yang want to use that fabric to produce other things. Okay, to produce souvenir and so on. Okay, so the sales value of that losses is relatively low. So when you have the value, we call it scrap. When there is no value, we call it waste. Okay, normal losses. So what is normal losses? A level of losses expected in the processing operation and is unavoidable. Example, loss of weight because of evaporation or melting. So that losses is expected losses. The loss that you expect to be happen when you boil a water, it should have evaporation. So that one will be expected losses. Expected losses is a normal loss. Example, when you put 1 liter of water at the end of the boiling process, based on experience, you know the losses is 10%. So your output is only 0.9 liter. So that losses is expected. Okay, this is under normal condition. Example, 10% loss is expected. It's under normal conditions. When you boil the water, okay, it will be lost 10%. Okay, loss inherent to the processing operation and determined based on past experience. Okay, how do you know the 10% will be lost? So this is based on past experience. When you do the same process every time, the losses is 10%. Since the loss arises from nature of processes, thus it's logical and equitable that the cost of such losses, okay, the cost for the losses, normal loss, is included as part of the cost of production. So that's why this will be incurred in the calculations of CPU. Therefore, increasing the average cost per unit. So when there is normal loss, the cost per unit will be increased. Okay, so as we said just now, we have scrap value, we have no scrap value. Okay, normal losses having no scrap value. So the goods production until units will absorb the loss. Okay, sorry, the goods production units will absorb the loss. Okay, the output that you produce, the excluded the losses, will absorb the cost of losses. Okay, thus normal loss becomes part of production and will increase the CPU. So CPU will increase. No entry made for normal loss as no money value is involved because no scrap value. If there is scrap value, normal losses have scrap value will reduce the cost of goods unit, because when we have scrap value, you can sell the outsiders. So the revenue that losses that we get from the outsiders will reduce the cost of goods units. So process account is credited with the scrap value. So under process account, you will credit the process account with the scrap value of the normal loss. So this cost of goods unit reduced by this scrap value. Okay, so we refer to example 2 and example 3. So example 2 is for no scrap value. Okay, example 3 for scrap value, when the losses have scrap value. Okay, refer to example 2. Okay, example 2. Okay, we still use the same illustration in example 1. Refer back to example 1, except that in process 1, no losses. Okay, if you refer to example 1, no losses. But in example 2, there is a losses. Normal loss is 10% of input, and this loss has no saleable value. So the output of the process 1 is 180 units. So input actually from the process 1 is 200. So normal loss will be 10%. From 200, you get 20. So your output will be 180. So 200 input minus losses, 20. So output will be 180. Input 200, output 180. So how to prepare the process account? So you are required to prepare process 1 accounts and normal loss account. Okay, so process 1 accounts. Process 1 accounts, okay. So refer back to process example 1, we have material, quantity of input 200 kg, okay. The amount 100, so CPU 50, labor 90, production overhead is 80. So the credit side is the normal loss. Okay, normal loss is 10%. So 10% of input. So input 200. So 10% of input is 20. Okay, 10% of input 200 kg is 20 kg. And then the output from process 1 will be transferred to process 2. This is output is 180. Okay, since in example 2, the losses is no scrap value. So the value is 0. Okay, so the amount is 0 because no scrap value, you cannot sell to the outsiders. Okay, how to get the CPU? So we have to calculate this CPU. How to get the CPU? Refer to the example. Okay, the total cost. So debit all the debit side, total up. Okay, 270 is total cost minus scrap value of normal loss. So scrap value of normal loss is 0 here. So 0 divide by input 200 minus normal loss 20. So normal loss is 20. Okay, so you will get the CPU 1 ringgit and 50 cents. So this 1 ringgit and 50 cents, you put in the CPU of output. That means the amount that you transferred to, process to. So 180 times 150, you get 270 ringgit. So now debit side, the quantity is 200. Total up debit side 200 kg. Credit side also 200 kg. Okay, the amount debit side 270. Credit side is also 270. Okay, then we prepare the normal loss accounts. Okay, so what is the normal loss accounts? Okay, so normal loss accounts we transfer from process 1. So this one we transfer here. Okay, credit process 1, debit normal loss. So 20 kg, but there is no value. So when no value, you cannot sell. Okay, so the quantity is 0. The amount is 0. Okay, then we move to the next one. Example 3, where there is a scrap value. Okay, so we refer to example 3, where there is a scrap value. Okay, same illustration in example 2, except that now the lots are sold at 20 cents per unit. So this is scrap value. Okay, how to prepare? Okay, refer to example 3. So the other information is just like it's like illustration 2, example 2. So that's why our debit side is still same. Material, labor, overhead. So 200 kg, the value 100. Okay, 90, 80 is to 70. So the CPU of metal same as example 2. Okay, and then the losses is so same. Okay, 10% from input, from 200 you get to 20 kg. Okay, so the balance here is not, sorry, it's not 200. The balance here is 180. Okay, the output is 180. Okay, so the output is 180 because we have the loss 20. Okay, but the difference from from the example 2 here is the losses have scrap value. So 1 unit is 20 cents. So 20 times 20 cents we get 4 ringgit. Okay, process 2. Okay, 180 kg. But how much is the CPU? Okay, the CPU we have to calculate. So calculate the CPU. Calculate the CPU. If you refer here, the total cost is 270 minus normal loss scrap value. Okay, if you refer to the formula, okay, minus normal loss scrap value. So how much is 4 ringgit. 4 ringgit divided by input quantity here 200 minus quantity of normal loss 20 kg. So you will get CPU 1.48. Okay, CPU 1.48. So you transfer to here. So this is not 1.35. So transfer here 1.48. So 180 times with 1.48, you get 266. Okay, you will get here 2.66. Okay, now total up the debit. So the quantity is 200. Credit side is also 200. Okay, the amount, debit side 270. So credit side is also 270. So balance the debit and credit, the quantity and the amount. Okay, now we refer to normal loss accounts. Okay, normal loss accounts. Okay, we transfer from the process 1. Okay, process 1, the credit process 1, debit normal loss. So this one. Okay, we transfer to here. Okay, 20 kg. Okay, 20 cents each. The amount is 4 ringgit. So this is losses that we expect to be happen. And we have to remember, since the losses has scrap value, so that means we can sell to the outsiders. When you sell to the outsiders, what do you get? You will get cash. So debit cash account, credit normal loss. How many units sold to the outsiders? 20 units. So you can sell at scrap value 20 cents. Since the scrap value 20 cents, so we'll get the amount for ringgit cash. Okay, balance of the normal loss account. the debit quantity 20, credit quantity 20, debit value amount 4 ringgit, credit value 4 ringgit. So this